Welcome to Calm Mind English. There are days when you do not feel sad in a clear way, but you also do not feel ready to live your day. You wake up, reach for your phone, and tell yourself you will only look for a minute. Then the minute becomes 10, then 30, and somehow your body is still in the same place. This is not always because you do not care about your life. Sometimes it is because your mind is tired before the day even starts. The phone becomes the easiest place to go when everything else feels too big, too slow, or too unclear. The strange part is that scrolling can feel like rest, even when it does not truly restore you. Your eyes move, your thumb moves, your attention jumps from one thing to another. But when you finally stop, your body often feels heavier than before. You may look at other people and think they are naturally more disciplined. They wake up, make plans, go outside, study, work, exercise, and seem to move through life without fighting themselves. From the outside, it looks like they have a kind of energy you do not have. But many people are not living with perfect motivation. They are simply not starting their day inside a trap. Their first action gives them a little direction, and that direction makes the next action easier. When you stay in bed with your phone, your brain receives a quiet message. It says life can wait. Effort can wait. Your body can stay still. Your attention can be taken anywhere except the place where you actually are. At first, that feels harmless. You're just checking messages. You're just watching something short. You're just trying to feel better before you begin. But the problem is not one video or one message. The problem is the pattern. When your first movement of the day is toward escape, your mind begins the day by leaving itself. A simple morning can slowly turn into a fog. You know there are things to do, but they feel far away. You know you should get up, but your body feels heavy. You know the phone is not helping, but it keeps offering small pieces of comfort. This is where many people blame themselves. They say, I am lazy. I have no discipline. I always waste time. These thoughts feel true because the evidence is right there. The room is messy. The work is unfinished. The day is passing. But self-blame does not create movement. It usually creates more pressure. And when pressure grows, the phone becomes even more tempting because it gives you a place to avoid that pressure for a few more minutes. So the real question is not, why am I so weak? A better question is, what is making the first step feel so hard? Often, the first step feels hard because it is not really one step. In your mind, getting up means facing your whole life. It means cleaning the room, answering messages, making progress, fixing habits, becoming better, catching up, and proving that you're not falling behind. That is too much for a tired brain. So your brain chooses the smaller, easier action. It chooses the phone. The phone gives you motion without effort. It gives you change without risk. It gives you color, sound, and emotion without asking you to stand up, decide, or begin. And because it feels easy, it starts to feel like safety. Not real safety, but a familiar shelter from the uncomfortable feeling of starting. Imagine a person lying on the bed in the afternoon. The room is quiet, but the screen is bright. There is laundry on a chair, a cup on the floor, and a small task waiting somewhere in the back of the mind. The person is not enjoying the phone that much. The videos are not that interesting. The posts do not really matter. But stopping feels uncomfortable because stopping means returning to the room, the body, and the unfinished day. That is the moment this video is speaking to, not the dramatic moment when everything falls apart, the quiet moment when you are stuck, not because you have no dreams, but because you cannot cross the small distance between knowing and doing. Life does not usually change in one huge emotional breakthrough. It often changes when one small part of your pattern is interrupted. A small action can become a doorway back into movement. You do not need to fix your whole personality today. You do not need to become a completely different person by tomorrow morning. You only need to understand where the loop begins. For many people, the loop begins with the first reach. The hand reaches for the phone before the mind has chosen the day, before your feet touch the floor, before your eyes see the room clearly, before you have any sense of direction. Your attention is already somewhere else. That first reach matters because it trains your nervous system. It teaches the brain what to expect when discomfort appears. When boredom appears, reach. When pressure appears, reach. When uncertainty appears, reach. Over time, the phone stops being a tool and becomes the automatic answer to every small, uncomfortable feeling. This does not mean the phone is evil. It is useful, powerful, and part of modern life. The issue is not the object. The issue is when it becomes the first place your mind goes before you have even met yourself. A better life can begin with a very quiet decision. Not a loud promise, not a huge plan, just one small change in the order of your actions. Before the phone, stand up. Before the screen, drink water. Before the scroll, open the curtain. Before the outside world enters your mind, let your own body enter the day. This sounds almost too simple, but simple things are often ignored because they do not feel impressive. We want a big solution because the problem feels big. Yet the mind is shaped by repeated beginnings. How you begin a moment often decides how that moment continues. If the first action is escape, the next action becomes harder. If the first action is movement, the next action becomes more possible. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to stop making avoidance the first doorway of the day. When you understand this, you can stop fighting yourself in a vague way. You can stop saying, I need to change everything. Instead, you can look at one exact point and say, this is where I will begin differently. One small change can turn your life around, not because it solves everything at once, but because it changes the direction of your first step. Your brain is always looking for relief. This is not a weakness. It is part of how the brain protects energy and avoids discomfort. When something feels hard, uncertain, or emotionally heavy, the brain naturally looks for something easier. A phone is very good at giving easy relief. It gives quick images, quick messages, quick opinions, quick music, quick humor, quick comparison, and quick distraction. Your brain does not need to wait long for a small reward. Real life is different. Real life is slower. Cleaning a room takes time. Studying takes time. Building confidence takes time. Improving your body takes time. Changing your routine takes time. So when your brain compares the two, the phone often wins. Not because it is better for you, but because it pays immediately. This is where dopamine becomes important. Dopamine is not simply pleasure. It is connected to wanting, seeking, and expecting a reward. It makes the brain lean toward something that feels like it may give relief or stimulation. When you scroll, the reward is unpredictable. You do not know what the next video, post, message, or image will be. That uncertainty makes the brain keep checking. Maybe the next one will be interesting. Maybe the next one will make you laugh. Maybe the next one will make you feel something. This is why 5 minutes can disappear so easily. The brain is not calmly choosing each moment. It is being pulled by the possibility of the next small reward. And when real life already feels heavy, this pull becomes stronger. The phone does not ask you to organize your thoughts. It does not ask you to face your messy desk. It does not ask you to decide what matters. It only asks for your attention. Attention is expensive. When you give it away first thing in the morning, you may feel scattered before you even begin. Your mind has already visited other people's lives, other people's problems, other people's achievements, other people's emotions. Then you return to your own room, and your own life feels strangely dull. The quiet feels too quiet. The task feels too plain. The beginning feels too slow. This is not because your life has no meaning. It is because your brain has been warmed up by high-speed stimulation. After that, ordinary effort feels flat. Think about a dark room at night. The phone screen is close to your face. Every few seconds, something changes. A new face, a new sound, a new sentence, a new problem, a new joke, a new piece of information. Your body is still, but your mind is being pulled in many directions. The brain receives stimulation without movement. It receives emotion without action. It receives novelty without progress. After a while, the brain gets used to that kind of easy intensity. Then when you try to do a real task, the task feels boring. Reading one page feels slow. Washing dishes feels empty. Sitting with your thoughts feels uncomfortable. This is one reason motivation feels missing. It may not be gone. It may simply be buried under too much easy stimulation. Motivation usually grows when the brain can feel a connection between action and progress. You do something small, then you feel a slight sense of movement. That sense of movement makes the next action easier. But scrolling breaks that connection. You spend time, but you do not feel progress. You experience many emotions, but you do not feel grounded. You move through content, but your real situation stays the same. This creates a quiet kind of frustration. You're not resting, but you're not acting. You are not enjoying, but you're not stopping. You are not choosing, but time is still passing. That state can make a person feel powerless. And when people feel powerless, they often reach again for the same thing that made them feel powerless in the first place. This is the loop. A task feels hard. The phone gives relief. Time passes. The task feels even harder. The mind feels guilty. The guilt feels uncomfortable. The phone gives relief again. To break this loop, you do not need to hate your phone. You need to make the first reward come from something else. A small completed action can also give the brain a reward. It is quieter than the phone, but it is more stable. Making the bed, washing your face, putting one dish away, opening a notebook, stepping outside for 2 minutes, these actions give your brain a signal. The signal says, I can move. I can begin. I'm not trapped. At first, this reward may feel weak. The phone reward is louder. It is faster and brighter. So you may not feel motivated immediately after one small action. That is normal. A brain trained on fast stimulation may need time to notice slower rewards again. This is why the first goal should not be to feel inspired. The first goal is to create a clean signal. One small action before the phone. One small movement before the scroll. One small choice before the automatic reach. You are teaching your brain a new order. Effort first, then stimulation. Movement first, then comfort. Direction first, then entertainment. This order matters because the brain learns from repetition. If you repeat the same small change every day, the beginning of your day starts to feel different. Not perfect, not magical, but different enough to open space. When space opens, choice returns. When choice returns, your life starts to feel less controlled by impulse. A person who changes their life does not always begin with strong motivation. Sometimes they begin by making distraction slightly harder and movement slightly easier. They place the phone across the room. They leave water beside the bed. They put clothes on a chair. They keep one notebook open on the desk. They remove one small barrier from the first useful action. This is not dramatic, but it works with the brain instead of only arguing with it. The brain follows what is easy, visible, and rewarding. So if the phone is close, bright, and ready, it will win many times. If the first useful action is close, simple, and visible, it has a better chance. Your job is not to defeat your brain. Your job is to design the first moment so your brain has a better path to follow. One small change can turn your life around because it changes the reward your brain receives at the start. Instead of learning, I escape when I feel heavy, it begins to learn, I move when I feel heavy. That lesson is quiet, but it is powerful. It does not need a speech. It needs repetition. And every time you make one small action before the phone, you're not only saving a few minutes, you're changing the relationship between discomfort and response. You're showing your brain that discomfort does not always have to become escape. Sometimes it can become the first step. The change that turns your life around does not have to be impressive. In fact, it is better if it is almost too easy to refuse. When people try to change their lives, they often choose a plan that is too big for their current state. They say they will wake up at 5, exercise for an hour, study every night, stop wasting time, eat perfectly, and become a new person immediately. For 1 or 2 days, the plan may feel exciting. Then the mind gets tired. The body resists. The old pattern returns, and the person feels like they failed again. The problem is not always the person. Often, the first step was too large. When your energy is low, a huge plan can feel like a threat. Even if the plan is good, your nervous system may experience it as pressure. And pressure makes avoidance stronger. So the better strategy is to make the first step small enough that your brain does not need to fight it. Place the phone across the room before you sleep. That is the change. Not across the city. Not locked away forever. Just far enough that you must stand up before touching it. This one small change creates a pause. And a pause is powerful. When the phone is beside your bed, there is almost no space between impulse and action. You wake up, feel tired, reach, unlock, scroll. The loop begins before your mind has a chance to choose. When the phone is across the room, the loop is interrupted. You wake up, feel the impulse, but now your body must move. You have to sit up. You have to place your feet on the floor. You have to cross the room. That short movement gives your mind a chance to come online. It gives you a few seconds to notice what is happening. Those few seconds may not look important, but they are the beginning of self-control. Self-control is often misunderstood. It is not only about having a strong personality. It is also about creating enough space to make a choice before the automatic habit takes over. The phone across the room is not a punishment. It is a design choice. It protects the first few minutes of your day. Now add one small task near you. Not a long to-do list. Not a difficult project. Just one simple action that can be done before you touch the phone. Drink water. Open the curtain. Wash your face. Put one item away. Write one sentence. Stand near the window for 1 minute. Choose something so small that it feels almost unreasonable to avoid. The point is not the size of the task. The point is the order. You're teaching your brain that your day does not begin with being pulled away. It begins with returning to yourself. This first 5 minutes can change the emotional direction of the whole day. Imagine waking up and seeing your phone beside your pillow. Your hand reaches for it automatically. Within minutes, your mind is full of other people's voices. By the time you stand up, you already feel behind, distracted, and slightly disappointed in yourself. Now imagine a different morning. The phone is across the room. Beside the bed, there's a glass of water. The curtain is closed, but easy to reach. You sit up, drink the water, open the curtain, and let your eyes adjust to the light. Nothing dramatic has happened, but your first message to the brain is different. It says, I move first. I choose first. I do one real thing first. That message can carry into the next moment. After opening the curtain, washing your face is easier. After washing your face, changing clothes is easier. After changing clothes, sitting at the desk is easier. This is how momentum works. It does not always arrive before action. Often, it appears after the first small movement. Many people wait for motivation because they think motivation is the beginning. But when your mind is stuck, motivation is often the result of beginning. You move a little, and then your brain receives proof that movement is possible. Proof is stronger than pressure. Pressure says you should change. Proof says you already started. That is why one small change can be more useful than a large promise. A promise lives in the future. A small action gives evidence now. If your life feels stuck, do not begin by asking how to fix everything. Begin by asking what happens in the first 5 minutes. Where's your phone? What is the first thing your hand touches? What is visible when you wake up? What small action is ready before your mind starts negotiating? You do not need many answers. You need one clear adjustment. Tonight, place your phone away from the bed. Put water nearby. Choose one small action that comes before the phone. Make it simple enough that you can do it even on a low-energy day. When morning comes, you may still feel tired. You may still want the phone. You may still not feel motivated. That is fine. The goal is not to feel different first. The goal is to act differently first in a very small way. After the first action, you can still use your phone if you choose. This is not about strict control. It is about changing who leads the first moment, the impulse or you. When you repeat this, something begins to shift. You may notice less guilt in the morning. You may notice that starting tasks feels slightly less painful. You may notice that your mind has a little more room. Small changes are easy to underestimate because they do not look powerful from the outside. No one sees you move your phone across the room. No one applauds when you drink water before scrolling. No one celebrates when you open the curtain instead of opening an app. But your brain notices. Your body notices. Your day notices. A life turns around through repeated signals. Every morning, you're sending a signal to yourself about what kind of person you are becoming. Not through words, but through the first action you take. If the first action is escape, the day often begins with weakness. If the first action is small movement, the day begins with direction. You do not have to be ready for your whole life. You only have to be ready for the first 5 minutes. And sometimes 5 minutes is enough to stop the day from slipping away. Your environment is always teaching you what to do next. Even when you're not thinking about it, the room around you is giving quiet instructions. A phone on a bed says, "Pick me up." A messy desk says, "This will be hard." A clear notebook says, "Start here." This is why motivation is not only an inner feeling. It is also shaped by what is easy to see, easy to reach, and easy to begin. If your space is designed for distraction, you will need more willpower. If your space is designed for movement, you will need less. Most people try to solve a physical problem with emotional pressure. They say, "I should be stronger. I should focus more. I should stop wasting time." But their phone is beside them. Their task is hidden. Their room is full of small, unfinished signals, and their body has no clear next move. In that kind of space, even a simple task can feel heavy. So instead of asking your mind to fight harder, change what your mind sees first. Create one small place that is ready for action. It does not need to be beautiful. It does not need expensive tools. It only needs to be clear. A desk with one notebook, one pen, one glass of water, no phone within reach, no pile of random items in the center, no open screen waiting to pull you somewhere else. This small space gives your brain a different message. It says, "This is not complicated. This is where you begin." When a task is surrounded by clutter, the brain does not only see the task, it sees every unfinished thing nearby. The cup, the receipt, the clothes, the old paper, the charger, the random object you meant to move yesterday. Each one takes a little mental space. You may not notice it clearly, but your body feels it. Before you even start, the environment has already made the task feel larger. A clear space reduces that hidden weight. It removes decisions. It lowers the amount of effort needed to begin. This does not mean your whole room must be perfect. Perfection can become another reason to delay. You only need one small area that supports the person you're trying to become. One clean corner, one ready chair, One simple surface. One place where the phone does not lead. Think of the person who comes home tired after a long day. They want to do one useful thing, but the phone is in their pocket. The bed is open, and the room has no clear starting point. So they lie down for a moment. The phone comes out. The room gets darker. The plan disappears. Now, imagine the same person with a slightly different environment. Before leaving in the morning, they put a notebook on the desk and leave the phone charger across the room. They place one book open or one small task in sight. When they come home, the space does not ask them to think too much. It simply shows the next step. This is how you reduce the need for motivation. You make the right action easier to touch than the wrong one. Your mind does not always need a deep lesson. Sometimes it needs a better setup. If you want to read, leave the book where your hand naturally goes. If you want to study, open the page before the session begins. If you want to clean, place one trash bag where you can see it. If you want to stop scrolling at night, charge the phone outside the bedroom or across the room. These changes look small, but they remove friction. Friction is the invisible resistance between intention and action. When there is too much friction, even a good intention collapses. When friction is low, action becomes more natural. The phone has almost no friction. It is close, familiar, and instantly rewarding. That is why it wins so often. To compete with it, your real-life actions must become easier to start. Not more impressive. Easier. A notebook already open is easier than a notebook inside a bag. Walking shoes by the door are easier than shoes hidden in a closet. A clean desk is easier than a desk that must be cleared before you can think. The first step should not require a meeting with your entire life. It should be right there. This is where mindset begins to shift. Not from forcing yourself to believe something, but from seeing yourself act differently. When you do one small useful thing before the phone, you begin to trust yourself a little more. When you prepare your space, you begin to feel that your life is not completely against you. When you lower the barrier, you begin to move without needing a huge emotional push. That trust matters. A person who does not trust themselves often avoids starting, because starting feels like another chance to fail. But a small completed action gives the mind a different memory. It says, I did what I said, even if it was small. And small is not meaningless. Small is how the nervous system learns safety with action. Small is how a tired brain returns to movement. Small is how a person rebuilds direction without overwhelming themselves. You may not be able to change your whole life today, but you can change what happens before the phone. You can change what sits beside your bed. You can change what waits on your desk. You can change the first signal your brain receives in the morning or evening. That is enough to begin. The final truth is simple. Your life follows the direction of your repeated first steps. If your first step is always into distraction, the rest of the day has to fight its way back. If your first step is into one small action, the day begins with a little more strength. So tonight, create one quiet setup. Put the phone where you must stand to reach it. Place one useful thing where your eyes will see it first. Choose one action so small that your tired mind cannot turn it into a battle. In the morning, do that one thing before the screen. Do not try to become a new person in one day. Just give your life a new first step. A phone across the room. A glass of water beside the bed. A notebook waiting on a clear desk. One small change. One real movement. One day that begins with you.